What's good, family? My name is Clem de la Creme. Thank you for being here with me right now. So, today's Tuesday, and we're going to give a quick update on the past 2 days. Yesterday was the Intro to Ableton class, and in the class we ended up focusing on synthesizers. For those of you that don't know, synthesizers help create sounds, and they do that using oscillators, filters, and amplifiers. It starts by going to a MIDI controller, and then with the MIDI controller you kind of like play notes that'll go into the oscillator, which will have different sound waves or just different waves. And the main ones are sine waves, kind of like square waves, and I think they're called sawtooth waves or saw waves maybe. But there are also some other ones that are kind of like just, you know, weird shapes and different things, but the main ones are those three, and they look pretty much kind of how they sound. So if you look at a sine wave, they're the rounded ones, you know, they're pretty standard when you think of just like wave sounds or you think of wave patterns. But sine waves are more smoother and fuller, richer. Whereas if you look at a square wave, they're kind of more hollow and they kind of like more of a boxy sound. Basses sometimes are like kind of like the boxy sound of the square waves. And the saw waves, like the sawtooth ones, those are for more kind of like sharp sounds. Like if you think of like electro sounds, kind of, you know, like more high pitched, and they're sharper and can be more aggressive. So those are like the three main different waves. But once you decide on the waves and how you want to alter your sound, then you can go into the filter and tweak it a little bit more, where you can change the attack, the delay, the sustain, and the resonance. But with that, you can pretty much make it sound however you want. You can tweak these sound waves to make them sound like different instruments. So you can make it sound like horns or a bass or almost strings or even voices if you get the right ones. But that's like what we went through. So we ended up making our own sounds and making our own instrument racks. And if you find that you make a sound or an instrument rack that you like, there's ways to save it so you can use it in your future projects. And that way, when you're working on a future project and you're like, man, I wish I had that, that crunchy bass that I had in the last one that I was working on, rather than having to go and tweak the sound and get it exactly how you want it, or get it close to what you had it to last time, like in your memory where you're like, oh, I'm trying to get it to that sound. If you already have it there, then you can just, if you have it saved, you save the instrument rack, then when it comes to that other project and you want that sound again, you can just open it up, and then you can further tweak it so that we can make it sound unique to that track. Or if you want the same thing, you can use the same thing. But that's if you build and save those instrument racks. Now, in music, reference tracks are something that you should use to pretty much grow as an artist, to be able to get sounds to where you want them. And I didn't do this in class yesterday, but it got me thinking, as I'm saying it now, that when you're building your instrument racks or your synthesized sounds, to use a reference track or a reference sound, so when you're trying to recreate that bass, not just like think about it in your head, but listen to it. Maybe listen to that song that has that bass that you like, and be like, oh, I'm trying to recreate this, so you can get it so it's hitting the same way, so you feel it, or it's like more of that sub, lower muffled kind of sound, where it's like that in the background rather than like heavier in your face and crunch. So you can get the sound how you want it. But that's what reference tracks are great for, to help you sound like the pros and help you sound like the pretty much the goal that you're working towards. If you have a vision of where you're trying to head towards, you at least know what you're trying to do. But you might not always get it exactly the same, but you might come across something similar or even better than what you were trying to get to, and it's your own because you made it. You tweaked it and created that sound through the synthesizer. which which can be your own signature, your own staple. Then after classics, we still had more in that class. We discussed what we were going to do for our writing projects, because in 2 weeks I have a written assignment due, and we need to discuss two different things, one being audio files and one being MIDI files, but not just audio MIDI files. We need to discuss functions in Ableton, or a function in Ableton that has to do with each of them. And so I think, me personally, I think I'm going to talk about the warp function. And what warping does is it allows you to put in an audio file, and then with that audio file it will kind of just analyze it and then let you decide how you want to work with it, to stretch it or to make it fit a certain, maybe it fits a certain BPM or a certain style, and you can maybe even change the flow or the cadence of maybe an acapella. But the warping has different, I think it's algorithms, and the different algorithms also affect the sound of it. So if you chose maybe beats, then it would analyze it and it would maybe slice it or chop it up on the beats. That way you can like stretch it on there, and it would try to fit it within your BPM on those beats. And that would give it one sound. But maybe you use the algorithm that goes along the transients, and so then it would be along there. Or they have a Complex Pro and some other settings, some other algorithms. And me personally, I just kind of like listen to them and see how they each sound, to see what works with the track that I'm working on and the effect that I'm going for. In the past, when I've done it on beats, maybe when I've done the vocal and I've tried to make it too fast or too slow, then it sounds choppy and it doesn't sound smooth and doesn't sound natural. So when I'm doing remixes and I've used that effect, I'm like, oh well, this doesn't sound good. So generally, for myself, I've used the Complex Pro when trying to do remixes, but you might like the choppy effect. Maybe it's better for what you're working on. So I say play with the algorithms and see which one sounds best for what you're going for. Or like I said, experiment. Maybe you find something that you weren't going for, but it sounds great. And then with the warping, I'm also going to talk about probably the history of warping. How did it start? What was it inspired by? And the evolution through that today. And for MIDI files, I'm thinking about talking about step sequencing and creating drum patterns, and how with those drum patterns you can maybe warp those as well. So that way I can like link the two ideas and talk about the history of sequencers and the importance of them. But that's what I did in class. And then after class, I went to go meet with a housing agent, to go try to find a place, because I'm still my friend's guest room and I'm trying to find a place to stay. But I set up an appointment with the housing agent. I went there to meet them, and then I had to wait there for 40 minutes because they were meeting with somebody else. And this was a room full of agents. There were like 40 to 50 desks, and there was dance music playing in the background. It was different than anything I'd seen. It looked like if you can think about what's that movie with the Wolf of Wall Street, or like if you see like a Wall Street movie where they've got a room and there's like just full of desks, people there on their phones, and people maybe sitting there that, not, I guess in the movies they're not sitting on the desk because they're making calls in those movies specifically for their sales. But here there were people at all these different desks, people on the phone trying to help people find rooms. And after waiting 40 minutes, I met with the person I had scheduled time with, and they showed me places, but the one I was looking for wasn't even available anymore. And then once I found one that I was like, I'm not really excited about it, but like it's okay. And then they wanted me to pay $200 deposit just to look at the place. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay a deposit to go see it, like £200 to go look at it. And they're like, no, but like if you don't like it, you got 1 week, and then you can see if you want to move in somewhere else if you don't like it, within that week. I'm like, man, I don't want to have to go move in somewhere to see if I like the place. I want to go take a look at it. I don't want to move in and see if I like the room. I just want to go meet the roommates. So that was frustrating. And then today I had a sound engineering class, And for those of you that watched the video last week, you know that that we recorded a whole drum kit. We mic'd up a whole drum kit and recorded the whole thing. And today we got in our groups and we each got a project file, and we went through all of our recordings. And as a class, we learned how to do that using Logic. Myself, I started using Fruity Loops, then I moved to GarageBand, and then Logic, and then I've been using Ableton for the past year. So personally, because of my own history with how I've learned, I always record my vocals and everything, my instruments in Logic. And truthfully, there's a lot of pros to that. Specifically, like with miking a whole drum kit using the comp function, you can go through it and just pick the best parts of each take to make one nice solid piece. But what I did is I first started by listening to all of the takes and writing down what I thought about each of them, so I knew which was the best take and like where are the spots I might want to tweak or take something from a different take, or where maybe there was one and I heard like, oh yeah, I really like that drum fill, and like that's what I did. You can see right here my notebook, and so I've got the different takes down there as well. Yeah, take 3 is not good for this project, so I'm gonna be looking at take 3. Drums take 2 comes in halfway into the intro. There's a cymbal tap to lead it in nicely at 1 minute and 2. There's a delayed hit that enters every 4 beats. But that's like me just kind of like analyzing each of the takes, and so I can come back to it easier when I was going into the composition. And I'm going to show you, I'm not sure if it's going to show up well on the video, but we can take a little peek. You can see that it's all chopped up. And this is the compositions all done together, but they're also flattened, so that way there's not a bunch of like just things in different tracks. This is all one thing. So this is all of the kit, the center kick. Here's the kick, inside the kick, here's outside the kick, top of the snare, bottom of the snare, hat, tom rack. There's the floor tom is below that, I think, and then there's also room mic and a couple others in there. But I basically put it together using the comp function and then flattening it out. And as I mentioned before, with like warping in Ableton, in Logic you can't do the warping the same way and work with it the same way, but you can quantize the piece and even set it to different things. So you can like try to set it to 16th notes, and so it'll listen to your piece, analyze it, and then kind of make slices along 16th notes and push it. And I tried doing that to this one, and it didn't sound right. It sounded choppy, and some of the drumming actually got messed up. So I'm pretty much going with the track as is, and I might just move or adjust something slightly. But with Ableton, with Logic, you can still pick maybe which of your tracks you want the quantization to follow. So I chose it to be like my kicks, my snares, because that's like where the main leads are, and it helps deal with like some of the phasing. So I disabled the quantization in all the tracks except for the kicks and the snares, and then had it go back through so that way they would follow the kicks and the snares, and made it sound better. But the whole piece is sounding pretty good, and I'm liking the direction that it's going. And next week we are going to record our guitarist. So this week I have my own little version of how I think the drum should sound with our track, or some things that I like about it. And everybody in our group is doing the same thing. We're gonna choose kind of what we like with it. And then also in this time we need to discuss what we want from the guitarist next week. But I've booked the big studio for Sunday evening, and at least one of my group members is going to be there, and another one of my friends is going to be there, so we can practice using the equipment and the outboard gear and the patch bays and stuff, because I need more experience and I want to learn how to do it better. So it's good that we all get to be there doing that together. And we're probably just gonna mic some vocals, so I'll probably record some of my vocals for the pieces that I'm working on currently. But that's cool, we get to grow and work together and help each other. Because on my own, I can book the room, but if I'm just there by myself, I can't do everything. I can't be in one room being a vocalist, and in the other room trying to adjust the different settings and try to connect things to the different pieces of outboard gear. So I'm so excited and grateful that my friends want to come through also, and we get a chance to learn together. But that was class, and then I went to look at another housing agent after class, and this one, she showed me a few places, and there was one that was like good location, good price, but the place didn't look like me. Didn't have the vibes I was going for, but the price was good. And then she said that I needed to pay £300 to be part of their company. It's like a 2-year membership fee, and with that, then in the 2 years, like anytime I want to find a new place, they'll just find me a new place. And I'm like, well, I'm not even gonna, I might just be here the length of my course, which is like what, 7 more months. And so I didn't want to pay that fee, and the place wasn't really excited about, so I told her I'd, maybe meet with her another day. But that doesn't seem to be the place that I'm going for. This evening I went to look at another place, and it's in this like warehouse area, and there's some cool creative people who are living there who are also like, they eat plant-based, they're into music and art and things, and they also like to climb and meditate. So it could be cool. I'm meeting them tomorrow for lunch to see if we get along, we vibe. The price range is more than I want to spend, like significantly more than I want to spend, but it's a great space, and the people seem to be good people. And yeah, so we'll see. But fingers crossed that I have a home soon. And yeah, that's what's good. Anyways, my name is Clem de la Creme. I love you. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Peace.